It was a chilly November night, the kind where the cold seems to seep right into your bones. I had been working at the truck repair shop and rental lot in Newton, North Carolina, for almost a year. My shift ran from 2 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., and as the person in charge of the fuel island and wash bay, I was used to long hours spent cleaning, detailing, and fueling trucks. It was routine work, nothing out of the ordinary, until that night. Around 7 p.m., as I was busy fueling up a company truck, a tow truck pulled into the upper parking lot. The driver stepped out, looking pale and shaken. He explained that the truck he was towing belonged to a driver who had been found dead in his cab at a truck stop. Heart attack, he said. The tow truck guy hurried to finish the job, almost like he couldn't wait to leave the place. I didn't think much of it at first, but as the truck was parked under the dim lot lights, I noticed something odd. The truck's headlights turned on by themselves, flickering in an eerie, irregular pattern. At first, I assumed it was a short circuit, maybe a wiring issue. But then, as I glanced up from my work, I saw the sleeper berth lights inside the cab flicker to life as well. It looked like someone was moving around inside, casting shadows against the curtains. I shook my head, trying to shrug off the chill creeping up my spine. The boss called me over a few minutes later, instructing me to wash and detail the towed-in truck thoroughly, since they planned to give it to a new driver soon. I was busy with other trucks at the time, fueling them up and cleaning the wash bay, so it wasn't until 8:30 p.m. that I finally made my way up to the lot. The truck stood there, silent and imposing under the faint glow of the parking lot lights. As I approached, I could have sworn I saw a figure sitting in the driver's seat. It was just a dark silhouette staring straight ahead, but when I blinked, it was gone. I shook my head, dismissing it as a trick of the light. I opened the door and climbed inside. The smell hit me first, stale, like a mix of sweat, cigarette smoke, and something metallic. It felt heavy, oppressive, like the air was thicker inside. I started my usual routine, wiping down the dashboard, cleaning out the trash, and scrubbing the seats. But then, as I reached for the sleeper berth area, I froze. A whisper, barely audible but unmistakable, came from right behind me. "I want to go home." I whipped around, my heart pounding. There was no one there. The cab was empty, just me. I forced a laugh, trying to shake off the unease. "You're hearing things," I muttered to myself. I went back to cleaning, but then I felt it, a cold, bony hand scratching at my back, as if someone was dragging their nails lightly down my spine. I jerked away, hitting my head on the overhead compartment. I spun around, but again, there was nothing. I decided I'd done enough on the inside. I scrambled out of the cab and quickly finished the exterior wash. I didn't care how good or bad the inside looked anymore. I just wanted to get away from that truck. The whole time I was spraying it down, I felt like someone was watching me from the cab. I refused to look up, even when I thought I saw a shadow move inside. The next morning, the truck was handed over to a new driver. He seemed like a nice enough guy, eager to get back on the road. He took off with the truck, and I figured that was the end of it. But a week later, the truck was back. The driver stormed into the office, visibly shaken. His face was pale, and he had dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept in days. He demanded a different truck, saying he'd quit if he wasn't given one immediately. Curious, I asked him what had happened. His hands were trembling as he spoke. He said that every night he slept in the truck, something bothered him. It started with whispers, low, indistinct murmurs that seemed to come from all around him. At first, he thought it was the wind or maybe a nearby radio, but the whispers grew louder, turning into the same chilling phrase I had heard, "I want to go home." One night, while parked at a truck stop, the entire truck began to shake violently, as if someone was trying to tip it over. He jumped out, thinking maybe it was an earthquake, or that someone was messing with him, but the lot was empty. When he climbed back into the truck, the air felt colder, and he could see his breath fogging in front of him. But the worst part, he said, was when he tried to sleep. He would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling an intense pressure on his chest, as if someone was sitting on him. And then he saw it, a tall, gaunt figure standing beside the bed. The man's face was shrouded in darkness, but his eyes were wide, staring at the driver with a look of pure malice. The driver couldn't move, couldn't scream. He was paralyzed with fear, forced to lie there as the figure loomed over him, whispering, "I want to go home." When he finally managed to break free from the paralysis, the figure disappeared, but the sensation of someone being in the cab with him lingered. After hearing his story, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I told my boss what had happened when I cleaned the truck, and he went pale. He didn't say much, just nodded and promised the driver a new truck. The company decided to put the haunted truck up for sale. They parked it at the edge of the lot, where it sat for weeks, untouched. No one wanted to buy it. Every now and then, as I worked the night shift, I'd glance up at the upper lot. Sometimes I'd see the headlights flicker on, or the sleeper berth light would glow faintly, casting an eerie shadow on the curtains. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I walked up to the truck just to see it one last time before they hauled it away. As I stood there, staring into the cab, I felt a chill wash over me. The door was slightly ajar, creaking in the wind. I peered inside, and for a brief moment, I saw him, a tall, shadowy figure sitting in the driver's seat, his head turned towards me. Our eyes met, and a voice whispered in my ear, clear as day, "I want to go home." I staggered back, my heart racing. The door slammed shut, and the headlights flickered off. I never went near that truck again. A few days later, a buyer finally came to take it away. I watched as they drove it off the lot, the silhouette of the cab fading into the night. But even now, when I'm working the late shift, I sometimes hear whispers carried on the wind. And when I look towards the upper lot, I swear I can still see faint headlights flickering in the darkness, as if the truck is still there, waiting. And I know, deep down, that whatever was haunting that truck isn't gone. It's just looking for a new ride home.